I knew I had him when the school gym went silent. Parents froze, my kids cried, and my ex was red-faced, screaming my name like a siren. That was the night I stopped being his favorite toy, stopped being his doormat, and turned into something he never expected. A mother with receipts, a spine, and a plan. He wanted control. I gave him consequences. If you've ever been underestimated, gaslit, or told to be the bigger person while someone emptied your bank account and your sanity, this one's for you. Hit like, subscribe, and settle in, because today you're getting the story of how I turned years of chaos into one of the quietest, most devastating paybacks I've ever seen. Mine. You know those couples who look fine from the outside? Nice apartment, decent jobs, cute kids, a couch that always seems to have a folded throw blanket? That was us. Two full-time jobs, roughly the same salary, not rich, but comfortable. At least that's what I thought. He liked nice things. Sleek TVs that sucked the room's attention. Plastic still on the new PlayStation he found on sale. Shoes that looked like spaceships. A car with a dashboard that hummed like a spaceship, too. He had access to my bank account and my phone. Because that's what partners do, right? Share everything. Except I never had his. That was his boundary. Funny how that word only went one way. We had a shared household system, which is a fancy way of saying whoever had money paid. No tracking, no tally, no, you got groceries, so I'll cover electric. Just vibes. And for a while, the vibes looked like dinners on the table and lights that turned on. And then, little gaps. Empty spaces where money should have been. One afternoon, I tried to pay the water bill, and my stomach did that drop, like missing a stair. Where did that money go? I scrolled transactions, my mouth getting dry. Hmm? He said, glancing over my shoulder, too casual. Probably your salon thing, right? I don't go to a salon. My hair is a ponytail and a prayer. Oh, he said, blinking, then making a big show of patting his pockets. We're fine. I'll cover it later. The first time, I let it go. The second time, I asked. The third time, my hands were cold, and I realized I was paying more and more bills, handing him cash for his bills, the word we somehow always translating into me. He'd say we could afford everything, while our kitchen trash can looked better dressed than me. I started doing that mental math all women learn too early. Am I being dramatic? Maybe this is what marriage is. Maybe I should be more generous. But the cupboard where we kept the paperwork felt like it was holding a secret, and the air around him started to smell like a lie. And the intimacy pressure. Let me just say this. Nothing turns desire to dust like being treated like an ATM. He'd pout, make jabs, grade my body in front of the mirror like a Yelp review no one asked for. If I pulled away, he'd act like a child. If I spoke up, he'd make himself the victim. Belittling comments slid through the day like mosquitoes, small, constant, itchy. Relax, you're so sensitive. I'm just joking. That word just carries knives. Years of this, and in those years, two things grew: our kids and my silence. I stored everything inside me like a box labeled later. Later I'll deal with this. Later I'll explode. Later I'll leave. Later arrived on a weekday, disguised as a normal fight that cracked open a decade. We separated. He moved out. He didn't move on. Here's the part that still makes my hands shake. After the breakup, he confessed he'd taken out a massive loan behind my back. Not for a crisis, not for a medical bill. He burnt it on gadgets, cars, clothes, shiny distractions that for a minute made him look like a man who had it together. He told me when he was trying to win me back, like that would soften me. If anything, it calcified something in me. I'd shared my doubts for years, and he had smiled and said, "We can afford it." We couldn't. I was the one paying, bleeding quietly while he strutted. Divorce is supposed to be the clean cut. It wasn't. For a while, we still lived together to keep things stable for the kids. Translation: I was still trying to be the bigger person, and he was still testing how small he could make me. He hacked my phone. All my socials, WhatsApp, Messenger, DMs, suddenly misbehaved. Messages read themselves, notifications glitched. I changed the password, it changed back. Eventually, I figured it out. He was inside my phone. Every ping was a finger tapping my shoulder from a man who no longer lived in my house, yet refused to leave my head. When he finally moved out for real, I started dating. I was naive enough to think that would be the part where I got to feel light again. He stalked my phone, reached out to men I was seeing. He harassed them. One guy started getting midnight calls. Then my ex made him a fake dating profile on a site he never used and put his number there. The next day, men started calling asking for things that made my skin crawl. My ex threatened to show up and beat people up. He found addresses. He called all hours. I felt sick, not because a man wanted me, but because the man I divorced wouldn't stop. One night, he let himself into my place, grabbed my phone, and told me he could open it whenever he wanted. He said it with this calm, clinical confidence that made me colder than all the yelling ever did. The terror wasn't the volume, it was the certainty. Later, I was at a party. Music too loud, lights cheap and cheerful. Someone spilled beer, soaking my shoes. I had blocked him, but we had mutual acquaintances who posted a picture on Instagram. Just a slice of my shoulder, the edge of my face. He found it. He found me. He called over and over until I picked up, and then he started screaming. He threatened to come, to burst in and beat everyone there. I kept my voice low. "The kids are with you." I said, "Please calm down." He didn't. The person beside me, another innocent who'd only made the mistake of being in my life, was shaking. Then my daughter called me, crying. "Why is Daddy so angry at you, Mom? Please come home before he does something stupid." That's the sound that enters my nightmares. A child who has learned how to manage an adult's rage. After that, we got her therapy. After that, I stopped thinking this is just a phase. I started collecting. Because here is the part revenge movies never show you: the quiet gathering. Screenshots, dates, times, what he said, how he said it, the night he threatened, the morning he called my boyfriend's office, the day he laughed at me when I asked about child support. Yes, child support. That was a real conversation we had. We share custody, 50-50. At that point, I asked for the child benefits, just to keep them on my side since I was paying full rent and carrying more of the day-to-day and had just lost my father. He laughed. I can still hear it, like a spoon scraping a pot. Too bad you don't have parents to pay your rent and help you out, he said. My dad had died a month earlier. He knew how much I loved him. He used my grief like a slingshot. I swallowed it. I sealed it. I added it to the file. I had no money for revenge. What I had was stamina. So I did the unglamorous, unviral things. I changed every password, two-factor authentication on everything, new phone, new accounts. If he found a crack, I sealed it. I kept communication with him in writing. When he shouted during custody exchanges, I stared past his shoulder at a point on the wall and let him exhaust himself. If he had an audience, I refused to be it. He could call me every name in the book. I would be a door. It wasn't silence like before, the doormat kind. This silence had iron in it. I got us into counseling. He came once and then refused. "You can't make me," he said like a teenager with a car payment. So I stopped convincing him and started preparing for the day someone else would ask for proof. Meanwhile, he played Daddy of the Year on social media, posted pictures of pancake mornings while he skipped child support, reposted meme wisdom about real men. He found a new girlfriend. I met her briefly and smiled. I'm not proud of everything I've said, but I am proud of that smile. It stayed still while my insides applauded the irony. He'd found someone who admired the mask. I hoped she would never meet the face underneath. But I knew better. People always ask, why didn't you go scorched earth sooner? Because I had kids who needed a mother, not a flamethrower. Revenge isn't always glass shards and flaming bags. Sometimes it's paperwork. Sometimes it's letting the truth do the yelling. The school event was in a gym that smelled like floor polish and orange slices. A banner that read, "Welcome families," folding chairs, other parents doing that half smile, half nod we all do when we're pretending to be awake. My son's class had made paper crowns. The staples were visible. My daughter smoothed hers and looked at me like I was the only stable thing in the room. He arrived late, storm energy wrapped in cologne. I could feel it coming before I heard it, his voice slicing the air toward me, words boiling over. He cursed. He shouted. He wanted to talk right then, right there, about custody, about how unfair I was, about how I'd turned the kids against him. People slowed, heads turned, teachers stepped closer, the way you step toward a toddler near a pool. My daughter's crown bent in her hand. "Please lower your voice," I said. Not an order, an invitation. He didn't. My kid's eyes went wide and wet. He was fully red now. A teacher moved in and said, "Sir, please step outside." He refused. That was the moment his image cracked. Other parents called CPS. I didn't have to do anything but stand there and let his own gravity pull him down. It wasn't just that he yelled. It was that he did it in a place that didn't belong to him, in front of people who did. He wasn't controlling me anymore. He was showing himself. After that, CPS met with us. I told them the truth, not with spit, with receipts. He was furious because I wanted peaceful co parenting and he wanted full custody. I said, his rage at me is bigger than the kids' well being. They listened. I had dates. I had times. I had messages that showed his hands, not mine, were the ones shaking the table. I scheduled an official custody meeting. He arrived with bluster and left with less time than he'd asked for. He wanted to move away from 50-50. He wanted every other weekend. Fine, I agreed. He didn't want to sign a child support agreement. He wanted the freedom to parade and the freedom to avoid responsibility. So I went to court. Court is fluorescent lights, cold benches, and a judge who looks at paper more than faces. I sat there with my folder, that ordinary thing I had carried like a talisman. Receipts, screenshots, a timeline so detailed it felt like a novel no one would want to read. He bluffed. He postured. He tried to charm a person whose job isn't to be charmed. The judge ordered child support. Not a wish, an order. The state could garnish. It did. Not the full amount. Bureaucracy moves like molasses, but enough. Money started appearing sometimes, unromantic and righteous. Not a gift, not his charity, his duty intercepted. He moved in with a new girlfriend. She wrote me a several paragraph text, long enough to qualify as a monologue. She called me cold and crooked. She said I was insane to ask for child support from a man who struggled to pay our debts. She told me my money should be spent only on the kids, and then I should take them traveling with all the money I got from him in the state. She scolded our parenting, said our kids weren't well raised because we didn't enforce a chore list like a corporate handbook, because I let them eat when hungry instead of posting a cafeteria schedule on the fridge. You can laugh. I didn't. I wrote back, "Are you manipulated or just stupid?" Not my finest hour, but honest. I told her he's unreliable with money, that I wasn't part of his secret loans, that he hadn't told the truth about finances during our marriage. I also told her this: I'll do what I want with my kids, and you have no say. Then I blocked her. I showed the messages to my ex-mother-in-law, who, God bless the twist of life, was on my side. New girlfriend didn't like that. By the time we rewrote the custody agreement again, he declined more time with the kids. That sentence should break your heart, if you have one. He didn't want the time. He wanted the image. He didn't volunteer a dime of child support. The state kept doing what it could, sometimes. I supported myself and the kids. Groceries, shoes, hobbies, electricity that stayed on because I paid the bill. They thrived. They got therapy. They laughed again, big from the belly. I taught them that feelings don't make you weak. They make you human. And me, the girl who used to cry in the bathroom so no one would see, she got very, very boring. I learned to love boring. Boring is passwords and budget spreadsheets and calendar invites to court dates. Boring is saying no without explaining. Boring is not answering the phone at midnight. Boring is the dull, steady hum of a life he couldn't crash anymore. Was there a moment where he was publicly humiliated? The night in the gym, yes. The day in court, yes. But the true revenge wasn't one scene. It was the slow dismantling of his favorite drug, control. He tried to own my time, my body, my phone, my peace. I switched off each valve, one by one, until the pipeline ran dry. Let me rewind and put you inside a few moments, the kind that stick. Moment 1, the laugh. When he told me, "Too bad you don't have parents to pay your rent," after my father died, something in my chest folded into a shape I didn't recognize. Anger is hot. This was cold. My cheeks burned. I stood at the sink. The faucet dripped and the clock ticked, and he chuckled, a sound like shoes on gravel. I could have thrown the plate. I didn't. I put it in the dishwasher and thought, I am going to survive you. Moment 2, the phone. He held my phone in my living room, my own couch under his hand. I can open this whenever I want. You know that feeling when someone walks across your grave? That. My heart climbed into my throat and then slid back down like it didn't want to live there anymore. I took the phone back. I said, "Leave." He didn't move. I said, "Leave" again. Calm, like I was asking him to pass the salt. He left. I bought a new phone that day. I made the store clerk stand there while I set up two-factor twice. Moment 3, the party. His voice in my ear, the bass of the music mixing with his threats. I'll come there. I'll beat every... I closed my eyes. The girl next to me touched my elbow. "Are you okay?" she mouthed. I nodded and said, "The kids are with you. Please calm down." He didn't. I hung up. I didn't sleep that night. Somewhere around 4 a.m., a choice hardened. Not that I'd fight back louder, that I'd stop giving him the sound he wanted. He would not hear me afraid again. Moment 4, the gym. The fluorescent lights made everyone look tired. He looked mean. When he started yelling, it felt like the air went thin. My daughter's voice afterward, "Mom," was a string pulling me back to the surface. People were watching. He thought that meant he had a stage. It meant he had witnesses. Moment 5, the bench. Court bench cold through my dress, papers in my lap, corners digging into my wrists. He walked in with swagger. He left with less. Garnishment doesn't come with fireworks. It comes with line items. But I will tell you, the first time I saw that deposit hit, small, imperfect, late, I cried on my kitchen floor. Not because of the amount, because the state had become a wall between him and my peace. He still lies. He still posture posts. He still sometimes misses his parenting time. He still doesn't pay full support. But the difference is his chaos doesn't own my day. If he sends smoke, I don't inhale. If he tries to start a fire, it's outside my house. People ask me, what was the revenge? Expecting a story about sugar in the gas tank or blasting his secrets online. I get it. Those stories feel good in a quick, spicy way. But me, I did something way less cinematic and way more devastating. I removed his audience, removed his access, and let institutions do what they're supposed to do. I looped in CPS when he melted down in public. I went to court and got it in writing. I showed his text to the one person in his family who still believed in character over performance. I took back the only thing that mattered. my boundaries. And he has been starving for them ever since.
And there's this detail you'll appreciate if you like irony. His parents bought him a big, nice apartment and renovated it, paid his living expenses when I told my mother-in-law about his loans so he could get out of debt. He lived surrounded by new paint and new furniture. I lived in a small place that looked exactly like my budget. I sold our apartment. I sold the leftover furniture he didn't want. I paid him half of every dime I got because we had no marriage settlement and I was going to walk out clean, even if it meant bleeding. He paid his new girlfriend's mortgage as rent. He wanted me to look bitter and broke. I looked tired, sure, but I also looked free. There's something else. Revenge didn't just put a man in his place. It gave my kids a mother who knows how to be steady. They watched me not take the bait. They watched me say no and then repeat it. They watched me apologize when I was sharp and then stay firm anyway. They watched a grown-up fail in public and a different grown-up stay calm, and they learned which one is strength. Do I wish I had slammed him earlier? Yes and no. I wish I had left sooner. I wish I had believed my gut when it whispered during those first small money disappears moments. But the timing was the timing, and in the end, the revenge landed exactly where it needed to. Not on his car, not on his reputation, but on his narrative. He doesn't get to be the hero of this story. He doesn't even get to be the villain. He's just a man who made choices and met the consequences. The last time we sat across from each other to tweak the custody agreement, he looked smaller. He asked for less time again. He shrugged about child support. I didn't argue. I slid the paper across the table like a waitress delivering a check. Then I went home and packed my kids' swim bags for the weekend, because that's my kind of revenge now. Happiness that doesn't ask his permission. And the new girlfriend? She sent her essay. I gave her one line, then I blocked her, and went to watch my kids ride their bikes. Sun on their shoulders, sweat on their temples, laughing like the past was something that happened to a different family. Maybe one day she'll see what I saw. Maybe not. Not my job. If you're listening and any of this feels like home, if your stomach keeps dropping at the end of each month, if your phone feels like it belongs to a stranger, if your child's voice is the one calling you back to yourself, hear me. You don't need a dramatic scene to win. You need a folder. You need a boundary. You need to stop narrating your pain to the person who thrives on it and start narrating it to someone who can help. Counselors, judges, caseworkers, friends who bring dinner and keep your secrets. The legal system can be slow, flawed, exhausting. Use it anyway. Paper is heavier than ego. I used to think revenge meant turning into the monster who hurt me. Now I think revenge means refusing to play the role he cast me in. He called me names, he hacked my phone, he threatened men who dared to like me, he mocked my grief. And for years, I was a doormat because I wanted my kids to have a father. They still do, just not one who runs my life. People who rely on control always underestimate paperwork. They underestimate quiet. They underestimate what happens when a woman who has been belittled into silence learns how loud a judge's signature sounds when it hits the page. He thought he was building a cage around me. He was building a case against himself. He tried to replace my confidence with fear. I replaced his control with consequences. That's the whole thing.
That's the revenge. Picture it. The judge's room is chilly, the kind of cold that keeps you awake. He's there, rehearsed outrage, ready to go. I'm there, folder on my lap like armor. The judge looks at dates, at messages, at the CPS notes from the school meltdown where the gym went silent and my kids cried. The judge doesn't care about his swagger. The judge cares about patterns. The ruling lands, custody adjusted, child support ordered, garnishment enabled. No applause, no dramatic gasp, just a new reality. Later, my bank shows a deposit. Not all of it, not always, but enough to know the story changed hands. He used to take money behind my back. Now the state takes it from his paycheck. He used to scream in public. Now he watches what he says on paper. He used to have the keys to my phone. Now he has a court order that locks the doors he liked to kick. He walks out smaller, I walk out steady. And when my daughter asks that night, "Is Daddy still mad at you?" I say, "He doesn't get to be." Her shoulders drop. That is the sound of revenge paid in full. Justice isn't always loud. Sometimes it's a mother choosing boring over chaos, boundaries over battles, paper over performance. I didn't ruin his life. I just stopped letting him run mine, and it turns out that was ruin enough. If this story hit you in the gut, give it a like. It helps more people find it. Tell me in the comments, what's the quietest, smartest revenge you've ever seen? And if you want more stories where the bad guy gets outwitted by patience and receipts, subscribe.